Hello race fans and welcome to round 4 of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup, live here from the Nurburgring in Germany. My name is Peter MacKay and I'm delighted to be bringing you the action tonight here for Fast and Furious Porsche Heat Racing alongside my broadcast colleague Soumil Arora. Soumil, it's been a storming season so far with 3 cracking meetings. I'm sure this one will be no different. Your thoughts heading into this race today?
I thought it was going to be a rather hot and humid day in Mumbai when I stepped out this morning, but really, it's going to be so sweaty here for all the teams and drivers considering how crazy the battles are getting in this championship, Peter. And it's not just on the championship table, it's on the track as well, which is something that's been a common feature of the PorscheSport Carrera Cup. So let's get in there, let's dive in and see what kind of action we're going to get today, because I get a feeling that it's going to be rather intense this morning.
It certainly will be, that is for sure. We started off our season at Mid-Ohio with very much an alternative choice of circuit, but my goodness me, it provided some great action. Then we moved to Belgium and Zolder and Imola just 2 weeks ago. Today we're here at the Grand Prix layout of the Nurburgring. Of course, here on RaceSpot TV we had the 24 hours of Nurburgring just a week or 2 ago, but today we will stick to the Grand Prix layout and lots of opportunities for overtaking and sure to be some proper action as we hit our mid-season point of the season. If you're new to the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup, this is our format. 2 20-minute heat races where just 10 cars get automatic entry to the 30-car feature race. If you don't get that automatic invitation, you have to go through the dread of the Consolation race. And Soumil, that's not where you want to be.
That's absolutely not where you want to be, because that is so many cars all packed up together, and it's not just any cars, right? You all know the kind of talent that we have here in every single race, and even in the Consolation race, it's a bucket full of the best Porsche drivers on the iRacing service. It's crazy, let's just put it that way.
That it is, and at the moment, look how tight those championship standings are. Maxim Ramstein leads by just 6 points at the top of the championship from Kevin Nielsen. Gonzo Tastella not too far behind with Alexander Lauritzen in 4th, Brian Lockwood in 5th, Quentin Violati 6th, followed by Florian Lebiga, Camille Grabowski, Sam Coiter and Pascal Costa rounding out our top 10. And Soumil, I want to talk about Brian Lockwood there as well, because he had a horror meeting at Imola. Nothing going his way. He'll be out to prove a point tonight at the Nurburgring.
He absolutely will be, and I think there's no other reason apart from bad luck why he finds himself in P5 in this championship. He's had unfortunate clashes with Quentin Violati more than twice, I can remember at least. And Violati, he realized that he was being a bit too aggressive. Of course, both of them sorted it out within each other in a very peaceful manner, let's just put it that way. And now they're out here to prove a point. And Lockwood, well, his main rival has been Violati on the track, but he kind of, you get a feeling that he will be fighting for the championship if things are all fine, if there is no drama surrounding him, because his pace, Peter, has been superb. He's constantly put the car right up to where it should be, considering that he's a World Championship driver, and he's accumulated some really big wins under his belt as well. So I think it's going to be a fun fight to see, firstly, who he fights with today, and secondly, where he finishes.
Yeah, I think he'll be up there for sure. Well, Brian Lockwood of Racecraft Esports. Of course, we mentioned Quentin Violati there. He will certainly be riding on the crest of a wave, because of course he comes into this round as the 24-hour of Nürburgring champion in this very car here on the iRacing service. And Soumil, you were on the commentary with me for that event, and I tell you what, Quentin Violati and his RHG Esports teammates, they were absolutely flawless and won by nearly 5 minutes, gaps we very rarely see in sim racing.
You're absolutely right, Peter, and one of the key components of that particular race was their fuel saving. We were riding on board with Quentin Violati for quite a while in that race, and we saw how they were just clutching it on and saving so much of fuel, just not by doing anything, just lifting and coasting. But that's quite the opposite of what we are going to get to see here today. Here, it's going to be proper full throttle action. No saving of the tires, no saving of the fuel. It's just bang, 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 go, 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 and try to get whatever they possibly can from this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, Soumil, I'm not I'm not disappointed that we don't have to talk about fuel saving tonight. This is all sprint racing. As we said, this is the Nurburgring Grand Prix Strecke, the more modern layout here at the Nurburgring, built in the early 1980s. And the first car race here, was actually with Mercedes AMG saloon cars, and it was won by none other than Ayrton Senna.
And that was the year before he won his first Grand Prix. He beat the likes of Alain Prost and Niki Lauda to win that touring car race. Everyone just stood up and took notice of this Ayrton Senna fellow, who I wonder how he did later on.
He did rather quite well. He actually had the honour of being a Scotsman's teammate once, Soumil. He was Johnny Dumfries's teammate at Lotus.
Yep. And I'll put it the most polite way possible. It was after a veto of another very strong driver who was supposed to come to Lotus, and then Senna said, no, I don't want to be going head-to-head. And his influence in the team was so strong, as it should be, he was able to get Johnny Dumfries in.
I think he heard that the Scottish people were just so polite and friendly that he felt that would be much better to have a teammate from Scotland, particularly a man of nobility. And of course, but we send our deepest wishes to the Bute family, of course, because of course we lost Johnny Dumfries, the Earl of Bute, just a few weeks ago, and of course the Le Mans winner in really one of the real heady days of Le Mans with Group C. But I tell you what, I nearly asked you about what you think about the new world of Le Mans that we've got coming up, Soumil, but knowing you and I, will go down a very deep rabbit hole there as we end qualifying.
Exactly.
One for another day on RaceSpot TV. So qualifying is now over, and let's see how our drivers line up for the opening heat of the meeting here for round 4 of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Gonzalo Tastellan will be your pole setter alongside Kevin Nielsen, a high quality front row. And, well, Maxim Ramstein and Brian Lockwood make it an equally star-studded second row of the grid. Alexander Hetmank and Mike Westkopsijker start from row 3, with Lewis Ward and Nick Schulte-Wisseman starting on row 4. David Ward and Nick Harwood round out your top 10, with Rebecca Pauline and Matthias Burke starting from row 6. Row 7 will be Marco Jaeger and Martin Spalek, followed by Martin Donati, Bastian Matler, Clement Andriot and Quentin Violati starting from 18th on the grid, with Vince Peters and Nelson Costa de Souza rounding out our 20-car grid. Now, Soumil, I presume Quentin Violati serving a qualifying ban.
You are absolutely correct, Peter. He got a qualifying ban. He was, of course, a bit too aggressive, and he reached the incident limit level that he wasn't supposed to reach, and so he's not able to qualify for this sprint race. I think it should add an element of drama, Peter, because seeing a driver like Violati with that sort of aggression climbing through the field, it's some spectacle, let's put it that way.
I think he will be charging through the field quite quickly. Certainly, well, we'll keep an eye out on that R8G Esports car number 17. Looking at our camera now, the car number 197 of Lewis Ward. Very quick driver is Lewis, and his favourite car is a Ferrari 250 GTO, so he has expensive tastes, Soumil.
Yep, exactly. Now, I think it's going to be quite a fun battle for P10 eventually, Peter. I get a feeling that Nurburgring, the GP layout, just produces such great racing. Should be a crazy one in store, shouldn't it?
It should be, and as you can see, most of our drivers are absolutely raring to go, and it looks like we've got them all ready for the start here at the Nurburgring. Watch out for turn 1. It is so perilously tight. They're turning right round the hairpin, not the Turbo 24-hour chicane, and off we go. We are racing for heat number 1 in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Down they go, down towards turn 1. I tell you what, Kevin Nielsen's got the impetus here. Is he going to be able to get into the lead? He's got the racing line on Tastellan. Oh, it's Dominoes, and Brian Lockwood involved again. Rebecca Pauline involved again. Goodness me, they are just cannot get a break. Neither Rebecca Pauline or Brian Lockwood can get a break. Well, I tell you who has got a break here is Gonzalo Tastellan, and he gets tapped around by Kevin Nielsen. So Nielsen goes by, Ramstein goes by, Schulte-Wisseman up into third. And Soumil, I don't think we could have packed any more action into those first few corners if we tried.
You're absolutely right, Peter. I wonder what happened right there. One of the cars, I think it was David Ward, I'm not sure, just plowed through and completely cut the chicane. And then the crazy bit, Kevin Nielsen in his first race after leaving AXA Simsport, making contact with Gunonzo Tasdalen at the fourth corner. Crazy. And look at the kind of people that we are not seeing in the top 10 of this race. There's David Ward, there's Lewis Ward, Martin Donati, Brian Lockwood again for some reason. Again, just getting in the midst of some chaos. Vince Peters, Mike Wisopskaiger and Rebecca Pauley. That is some star-studded drivers really taking a big hit. But I'll tell you who's taken a big gain, Peter. Quinton Violati from P18 already up to P6.
You beat me to the punch there. Yes, that's absolutely incredible from the back of the pack. But I think we're going to get a proper battle here for this heat race win. Of course, if you win heat number 1, that means that you're on pole position for the feature. This is the race. The only way you can get pole position back for the feature is winning this heat. If you win heat 2, you will start P2 on the grid. But I tell you what, Kevin Nielsen really laying down the fast laps here, and Ramstein actually struggling to keep on the case of Kevin Nielsen. So Nielsen really on the charge, and Nick Schultz of Wisserman for Urano Esports there in that red and black machine in third. Really good start from him. So it's very much a case of the haves and have-nots in lap 1.
Indeed, yeah, Nick Schulte was quite good at the Nurburgring 24 hours as well, really showing his pace right there. One car off in the gravel trap, but the battle you're seeing right now is the one between Marco Jäger and Martin Spalek. Jäger, of course, in the car number 69, the one that got the move on Spalek right now. And Spalek is defending from Gunonzo Tasdalen coming back from a recovery drive. Oh, look at this! It's Quinton Violati who's made a mistake right there as well, Peter.
Well, it's certainly up into the fight, into the thick of it, probably further up than he might have expected in his wildest dreams so early. So Quinton Violati, we know he's one of the fastest drivers in this championship, so quick, and we know aggressive as well, never shy of going for a move if there's even the slightest chance. You can see there's Martin Spalek going off into the kitty litter there as well. So goodness me, tempers are high already here in heat number 1 of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Now we've got a few drivers in pit lane. We've got Westcott Syker, Lewis Ward and David Ward, all three of them having to come into pit lane for repairs, and very likely that they will be in the peril of the consolation race, which is not where you want to be. So let's have a look here. It's David Ward, just misses his braking point. You can see what he tries to do. He just tries to bail out and tries to avoid contact, and he did, and then hopped over the curb and then took Brian Lockwood with him. Oh, just very typical Nürburgring turn 1. Of course, these cars don't have any anti-lock brakes system, Soumil, so very easy to lock up.
Yeah, they are, but I feel for David Ward that's a really sad mistake. He tried to avoid one racecraft car, then hit the other one, but you really have to feel for Brian Lockwood. It's been almost every single race where he's been taken out by some sort of accident. Literally every single race. I wonder what he'll be going through right now. Not very positive emotions, I can tell you that. But it's only after those emotions is when you bounce back really strong. This is what happened between Tasdalen and Kevin Nielsen. So at the arena section, they were really trading punches until this.
That looked to me a little bit of what we refer to in sim racing as digital aero wake. That looked to me like there was a bit of a gap from car to car there, and it just can happen that when you're racing across the internet, if there's just a slight discrepancy in the connection, can sometimes cause a bit more of an issue than would maybe be possible there. So that's quite unlucky for both drivers. I wonder if Kevin Nielsen will cop a penalty for that at some point. We know the stewards here at Simpower do not take any nonsense, so if there is a penalty to hand out, we will hear about it during the race. There's normally no time wasted. But speaking of, Kevin Nielsen really stretching the gap, and of course Maxim Ramstein, our winner at Imola last time out, and Nielsen really laying down some tough pace. Of course, Nielsen had a difficult heat last time out at Imola, Soumil, and had to fight back all night long.
He absolutely did. It's a bit of a shame, that mistake as well, braking and turning at the same time, heading into the Rivatsa corner at Imola. But the way Kevin Nielsen recovered was really special, Peter. had the confidence. He never seemed out of place while making any of those recovery moves, which was quite a fun thing to see. And I guess we're going to see something similar. If he gets a drive-through penalty, he'll be coming back with the same level of intensity again.
We've just gone through the worst chicane in the history of the universe here at the Nurburgring.
Could be worse.
Go on.
Could be worse. There's Zolder's chicane, which is bad.
Controversial?
Bus stop chicane at Spa is not very good either.
Good point. Yes, I feel that one is the worst of them all. The Nurburgring one. That is just horrible. It's just a guaranteed accident. Oh, speaking of, but Rebecca Pauline just gets away with that. Nelson Costa de Souza, a little bit of side-to-side contact. And I tell you what, Rebecca Pauline, such a hard racer. She's been so unlucky, been on the wrong end of other people's incidents so many times. And I tell you what, she just does not give up, and already up into the top 10 despite being turned around at turn 1. She's into the transfer spot. Brilliant stuff from the fiercely forward driver.
Indeed, yeah. Rebecca Pauline, same like Brian Lockwood, pretty much almost always being taken out. They missed a round the last time out just because they don't want to compete a lot. Rebecca said that he's been taken out every single place, so she might as well want to take a round off and see where it goes. Coming back for this particular one, again, taken out in the first corner. It's a bit absurd how some people are really having a lot of bad luck on them. But yeah, now it's been a good comeback, but they're in a bit of a tricky spot. P number 10 always seems like the ground starts shaking under P number 10 when we get to the 7-minute mark. Let's see what happens. But a look with Brian Lockwood's on board. Now, focus on his steering movements. When Brian Lockwood usually gets taken out... yeah, exactly. Oh, look at this. With Spader's going to the outside line. See, this is getting really scary right now. Take a look at his steering movements. Look at how pinpoint accurate they are. That's a sign of a good World Championship driver. When he's really aggressive, you'll see them shaking around quite a fair bit. Now, he's under control, very calm.
Oh my word, this is getting very tight. There goes Costa de Souza. Yep, that was a matter of when rather than if. Unfortunately, going into that chicane, and Costa de Souza comes off worst. Got a little bit of a tap from Lockwood going through Hatzenbach box, and that just allowed Lockwood to appear to get the run. And then, of course, Peters came around the outside, and I tell you what, Vince Peters has pulled off a bit of a bank robbery there, because how on earth did he get through there? Like, wow. Oh, it's one of the cast cars. That's no, Clement Andriot, his teammate, going for a big old lunge there. And this is typical Nürburgring stadium section. You can just switch back and forward. And who's going to get the better of it? It looks to be just Andriot. Can he seal the move up? He can. Now, does De Souza in the red car, does he try and fight back? No, Andriot's got the place. Good stuff there from the cast driver.
Yeah, damage limitation after that lockup that we... Not lockup, but missing of the braking point that we saw at turn number 1. Again, very easy to do. But coming back on that move from Vince Peters, I think you've described it perfectly, Peter. It's the bank robbery of the century, because he's got past Brian Lockwood so effortlessly, just making the best use of the scenario. That's a bit of a rare sight. Now Lockwood comes back with a move down the inside.
Well, if you are planning on robbing a bank, give Vince Peters a call. He might well be your getaway driver. He certainly make a good one anyway. Not that we're condoning that, of course. Anyway, looking back from the number 45 machine of Vince Peters, looking back at Brian Lockwood, who is got to be... The temperature is going to be pretty high in the cockpit of that number 43 car, because this has been, as you rightly mentioned, Soumil, this has been a bit of a trend for poor old Brian Lockwood. When he's had a clean run of it, well, he just dominated at Zolder from the front of the pack, but he's just not had the rub of the green at all over the last couple of weeks. Been involved in a lot of incidents, and many I don't think any you could put him at fault for. As we come into the final corner now, look, we're going to have a look up the inside. Peters has gone. Goodness, where's Peters going? Wrong way. And I know you should drive a Porsche slow in and fast out, but that's a new line there that Vince Peters is using.
Yeah, not worked out for him. But coming back to Brian, yeah, I think it's interesting, because a good racing driver will always come up and say, yeah, I can't control it, let me put my head down and let me do something about it on track, which Lockwood is doing, by the way. Oh, bit of a spinner in the back. That must be Nelson Costa de Souza right there. But yeah, that is Nelson Costa de Souza having a bit of a spin at turn number 1. But coming back to Brian's point, after a point when you've got so many incidents when you are taken down, it does eventually get to you, and you wonder, yeah, what will it take to get the bad luck off me? Good on Brian that he's trying to fight it as it comes. Now Vince Peter's attacking. I like this intent from Vince Peter's, Peter. He's just getting on it. He's challenging Brian Lockwood, who of course mustn't be in the best of moods, and he's just not helping it out. He's really doing a good job right here for the Volante Racing team.
Absolutely, yeah, but a really, really tough racer. Oh, and there's a big lock-up in front. And, well, this really matters because we've got 8 minutes and 45 seconds to go. And at the moment, neither Vince Peters nor Brian Lockwood are in a position to get automatically into the feature. Of course, that position is held by Rebecca Pauline about a second and a bit up the road. There she is there in the yellow and black machine, the Fiercely Forward car. So this is what makes the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup so exciting, because it's not just the battle for the win. It's actually, you know, normally if a commentator says, oh, well, here's the battle for 10th, you're going, so what? But actually, in this championship, the battle for P10 is absolutely critical, because if you don't get in that feature race, the consolation race is a bit of a lottery, actually.
Exactly. And who can imagine such big names in the consolation race? But we often get that. We often do get top drivers finding themselves in the consolation race. It's normal, it happens, that's how competitive the championship is. But what is interesting, Peter, is that Vince Peters has just lost track of Brian Lockwood slightly, and it's good for both of them, because when they were fighting, Rebecca Pauline was really able to get a good gap on them, and that just puts P10 out of their reach. Now if you're Brian Lockwood, you get a little bit less tension behind you, so you can focus more on Rebecca, Bastian Martler and Marco Jäger, the 3 cars right ahead of him.
Rebecca Pauline has just put in her fastest lap of the race, 1:59.794, and she's miles quicker than the cars in front of her. So I feel that this sort of top end of the sort of 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th could all concertina together when we come into the latter part of the race. Just 7 minutes to go now, and depending where our leader comes across the line, be 3, maybe 4 laps to go. I imagine maybe just 3 laps to go at the end of this one, and huge lock up there from Bastian Matler in the Monaco Esports car, and Rebecca Pauline all over the case here.
Absolutely doing a good job to get on the tail of Bastian Matler right now. And this is going to be interesting. Where will Rebecca make the move? Of course, it's going to be the chicane. And a word on the chicane, it's not likeable in any way whatsoever, but it gets the job done. And that's what the effective part is. It gets the job done in terms of creating another overtaking spot. Good on us, not so good if you're a racing driver. Gives them another chance to make a move, that is.
I have to say, I prefer the faster version of it, where you have to swoop through. Speaking of, there you go, Rebecca Pauline making full use of it there. She's saying, what are you talking about, chaps? It's an excellent chicane. I've just used it to my extreme advantage there. Goes up into 9th position, and now Bastian Matler trying to just regather his thoughts, and now he's got a mirror full of Brian Lockwood, number 43 Racecraft Esports car, and that's not really what you ever want to see on your pit board, is Lockwood plus 0, as Matler goes to retaliate. Pauline on the wider line, Matler's, goodness me, that's close. Oh, that was close to saying a naughty word. Oh, goodness me. I thought Matler was gonna be the red and white bowling ball there, and Rebecca Pauline was going to be in yet another incident, but thank goodness me, they all get through clean.
They all get through clean, and I'm glad that there's no contact, because, guys, take a look at their liveries. They're really beautiful. I think we have to take a time off to appreciate that. All 3 designs, basically. Fiercely Forward, it's been a favourite of ours. It's been no secret that we love the Bumblebee yellow and black on that car, but the Racecraft as well. We're known to love the simplicity of it, but that Monaco Esports car as well of Matler, man, it must be a locking up machine right now, considering how much of a challenge Bastian Matler is facing right now. But it's a beautiful machine, that.
Oh, it's very nice. Yes. Typical Monaco to be stylish. I like the detail on the Racecraft Esports one. You can see that there, all the little miniature R's all over the bodywork. I have to say, we must campaign though, Soumil, to have at least one round where we have the Cherry Cola edition of the Fiercely Forward car.
Oh, that livery
Yes.
is really special. It's a beauty.
Oh, as you see, Brian Lockwood here having to, well, Mattler trying to cover off the line into the chicane and the little tap. There you go.
Ah.
There you go. It's so easy done. And poor old Rebecca Pauline, how many mirrors has she broken in her life? How many ladders has she walked underneath? Because it just, what could she have done to avoid that? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Take a look at the Alkindic.com replay. It's
like it's bright yellow, you can't miss it.
Yeah, I mean, Matla was under pressure from Lockwood, but again, you can't quite say much, right? You just can't do stuff like that. Poor old Rebecca been taken out in every single round she's taken part in. Oh, a bit of a tap from Brian, wasn't
yes,
there?
Yes, Lockwood was the first domino in the pack there, and actually the one who got away best out of that incident. So I wonder if Lockwood might now be on the receiving end of a penalty, and my goodness me, will the temperature get even higher at the cockpit of that 43 car. So what does that mean then? Lockwood up to 10, so he now, for now, has the transfer spot. Mattler in 9, so actually he did recover okay. So ironically, it was Rebecca Pauline who came off worst there, but it's not done. As we've seen, these little incidents can happen, and we can guarantee it, that particular chicane, which I maintain is a horrible piece of design, but it just encourages those sort of bottleneck moments.
It does, and the poetic irony of it is that just a couple of laps ago, Rebecca Pauline had used that chicane to her advantage. A couple of laps later, it's been used against her, because that's the kind of thing that happens at a corner like that one. But somebody gifted her a rabbit's foot or something. I hope it's not a real rabbit's foot. That'll be just poor torture for the little creature. But whatever, you get it, right? Some sort of thing that gets you bad luck. To her, Brian Lockwood has had quite a fair bit of that as well. Insane how some drivers are just dragging on with that list of bad luck behind them. See, I'm stuttering because it's a bit hard to believe. But now here comes Lockwood, controlling what he can control. And that is making a good move on Bastien Matla, who concedes rather calmly.
Yeah, this doesn't quite, but remember, you can have another go down into turn 1 and they run side by side. This is going to be who is going to be bravest on the brakes. And look at Vince Peters, he's the bogey there in the number 45. He could well pick up the scraps here. Lockwood on the inside, he's very clever with the racecraft as well, and shuts the door, makes sure there's no chance for Mattler to retaliate. Very clever there from the number 43 of Brian Lockwood. And so far still hangs on to 9th position. Mattler in 10th, so he has the last spot to the transfer to the feature now, but Vince Peters in 11th right there. He'd quite like to pinch it off him, so this is far from done. Back at the front, Kevin Nielsen leads by nearly 3/4 of a second from Maxim Ramstein, and they are both lapping at a super hot pace. In fact, Kevin Nielsen put in his fastest lap of the race last time by a 1:58.9. That is rapid pace.
Yeah, he's absolutely fast. In the AM category as well, we have this really interesting battle. Matthias Berg, your AM category leader in this particular heat, he's doing a good job defending from his AM category rival, Nick Harwood, as well. So big battles, big narratives all the way through that we will see mature right at the very end in the feature race.
Whoa, and look at Peters. Look at, here he goes. As they come up into Hatzenbach Bocht, you can maybe go for the switchback here as well. I think that's what Peters is going to try. He's got the inside line, goes for the dive. Are they going to make contact? Battler shuts the door. They bang doors. And Lockwood's looking in his mirror saying, oh, good night, chaps. I am gone. But coming up into the chicane of death, I'm sure that's not its actual name, but I'm going to call it that anyway, as they come in here, and when tempers get hot, oh, as Peters is just taking the place. Now, as we come onto the final lap, Mattler will get one last opportunity to make that move. And interestingly now, we have Rebecca Pauline in 12th, quite far back. But if these guys get together, it's never done until the checkered flag drops.
What I'm quite impressed to see is that Vince Peters, after making those bold and beautiful moves, by the way, has finally found himself in the top 10. Well deserved, that one. Good to see the SimRacingLoft.com Volante team right up there in that position. And now next up is Brian Lockwood. Unlikely that Lightning's going to strike twice, because Lockwood has got a good gap on him. but really getting close. Oh, look at this, getting close at the top, it seems.
Oh, and all of a sudden Ramstein has pulled out an absolute blinder of a lap there, and coming into the latter part of the final lap. Does the Dutchman have anything for the Dane, leading right now in the number 3 car through the Michael Schumacher-esque they go? Look how much room they use on the entry to the corner, using every last bit of the road. Maxim Ramstein getting a little bit loose there, going through the exit of the Schumacher-esque. Into Hatzenbach they go, and then up to Warsteiner Curve, the best corner on the circuit because it's named after a brand of beer, and then up towards the chicane is Maxim Ramstein. Well, it got it very, very tied up there coming on the exit, but his run's not too compromised. Goes to the inside. Is Nielsen going to defend? No, he isn't. Is Ramstein going to try? No. Nielsen hangs on once more. Ramstein, is he going to try and pick the pocket into the final corner? Nope, just thinking better of it, I think. Just realising that this is all about the points in the feature race. So Kevin Nielsen hangs on. Oh, does he? Yes, he does. Hangs on for the final corner and wins here in heat number 1 of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup for Maxim Ramstein. Nick Schulte-Wisserman third, Kenton Violati in 4th, and Taz Dalen, just missing out on 4th, finishes in 5th. But Quentin Violati, goodness me, applause that man, because from 19th on the grid to 4th at this level, absolutely superb. Vince Peters takes the last spot in the feature race, and Bastian Mattler and Rebecca Pauline, Martin Donati, Martin Spalek and co have to go through the Consolation. So this is how they finished then, confirming Maxim Ramstein second by just a 1/10 of a second from our winner Kevin Nielsen. Nick Schulte-Wisserman rounding out the podium for Urano Esports. Quentin Violati 4th. What a great drive from the Frenchman. Gudonzo Tastelin rounds out your top 5 with Matthias Burke in 6th, Nick Harwood in 7th, Marco Jaeger 8th, Brian Lockwood recovering to 9th, and Vince Peters getting the last spot in the feature race automatically. So the following drivers head to the Consolation race: Bastian Mattler, Rebecca Pauline, Martin Donati, Martin Spalek, Clement Andriot, Nelson Costa de Souza, Alexa Hetmank, David Ward, Lewis Ward, and Mick Westkop-Syker. So straight into heat number 2, and this is how they start. Sam Coiter and Kane Halliburton start on the front row of the grid, with Kamil Grabowski and Alexander Lauritsen on row 2. Row 3 will be Pascal Costa and Florian Lebiger for R8G Esports. Kirill Kolobuksov will start 7th alongside Justin Rem. Thomas Gildelion and Oscar Wilkins start on the 5th row, with Marcel Jochheim and Alexei Nezov on row 6 of the grid. On row 7 will be Jaime Fierro and Gilhem Pipers. James Parker and Dylan Burse start on row 8, with Hendrik Lichtenhagen and Cenk Insioglu starting on row 9. And Jan Schmitz rounds out your 19-car field. 19 cars, the top 10 go through to the feature race automatically. Who is going to take this one? We've got Kevin Nielsen on pole for the feature race. Who will join him on the front row of the grid? So you can see our last few drivers preparing for the start of this race. Look at Kane Halliburton here. And Kane, an absolute wizard at the wheel of a Radical SR8 here on the iRacing service, and he's pretty handy in a Porsche as well. Sitting ready to go, and it's a Racecraft Esports 1-2 on the front row of the grid. We're nearly ready to go. Sam Coiter, our pole sitter, in the 28 car. Nice and easy to spot him with those bright orange wheels. Very patriotic indeed for the Dutchman. We're just waiting on one more car, and we'll be ready to go to dive into another 20 minutes of action here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Of course, Porsche Sport, the world's leading independent Porsche news site. Check it out for exclusive race reports, interviews and features, and also weekly podcast as well. Looks like we've got all our cars. The lights are being prepared. The revs rise. These 4-litre flat 6 engines ready to let loose on the Nurburgring. And Will they? Who will get the best launch down to turn 1? It was pandemonium in heat number 1. Will it be the same here in heat number 2? Let's hope not. Let's hope they all get through nice and neat and tidy. So number 28, Sam Coiter starting on pole. Of course, time's so tight in qualifying. Here come the lights at last. It's a long wait, but we are finally ready to race. And off we go, racing at last here in heat number 2 of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup, round 4 from the Nurburgring. Sam Coiter leads down into turn 1. Can he get through safe on the brakes? It's always perilous. Oh, it's dominoes again. Few cars off, one of the Wild Animals cars as well, but a little bit cleaner than heat number 1. A little bit, Soumil.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a minor spin at the back right there, but that is not ideal for the Wild Animals team. Meanwhile, a 1 and 2 for Team Racecraft. How often have we seen that before in a heat race?
Yep, we certainly have. These Racecraft esports guys, they are quite the team. And, well, having that World Championship knowledge within that team to get those best setups is very, very important. As, one of the bendable cars, that's Dylan Burse getting a bit of a bump and run there from Gilham Pipers. But Dylan Burse, this is a man that races Hyundai excels in his homeland, so he is no stranger to a bit of the RJ or indeed Bargy. And, big lockups there on cold tyres into the hairpin.
And Dylan Burse, if you remember the last time on, he was a proper ace at Imola. Had a really good round right there. Let's see what he can make of it right now. Finishing in P3, remember, but he went about sim racing at Imola. Now, finding himself... Well,
whoa, it's a big one. Oh, my goodness me, who's put oil down at the Hatzenbach block? Goodness me, his car's going flying through there. Carol Kolobuksov in the 55 car, I think he's maybe got suspension trouble because that car is not behaving itself. Well, maybe not, but goodness me, we'll get another look at that, I'm sure. But there was cars just coming flying through at the Hatzenbach block chicane there. Anyway, back to the front. Sam Coiter, your leader. Kane Halliburton in second. Alexander Lauritsen in third. And here goes Dylan Burse up the inside in the number 68 car on the fringes of the top 10. Of course, a very important position to be or better. And we see Alexei Nezov there as well in the number 33 car. Alexei, a real-world GT racer, so knows his way around this place. Hard on the brakes. Oh, is he going to get pulled up in time? Oh, absolutely millimetre perfect there. But can he defend from the Volante car, the 188 of Justin Rem? It's going to be very hard to get that move sealed up in time. He goes for it, shuts the door hard in Rem's face.
That is good driving by Alexei Nezov. Very aggressive, very in character for him. Of course, driving Mercedes in the GT Open Championship last year and finishing quite high up in that as well. And Nezov, a man who's not a stranger to having strong battles right here. We've seen that constantly in this season of the PorscheSport Carrera Cup.
Yeah, he's no stranger to a proper fight. That is absolutely right, Soumil. Sam Coiter still leads then from his teammate Kane Halliburton. Lauritsen in third. And this is incredible. We see drivers of the calibre of Dylan Burse of Vendaval Sim Racing in the 68 car at the moment in 9th position and really in the deep fight with 4 or 5 other cars. As we see the 44 of Oscar Wilkins going off at the Michael Schumacher S. Manages to recover and shuts the door back again in front of Nezov. So Nezov 10th and Wilkins just about hangs on to his spot in the top 10 as Burse goes a bit wide.
That is good hard racing that we're seeing here from Oscar Wilkins from the SimRacingLoftvolante.com team. Good to see this battle. And now Nezov, the young gun, looking for something on the outside line. But it's very smart driving from Oscar Wilkins. He's been around on the iRacing service for many, many years. He knows his lines. He knows how to defend. And look at how smartly he's doing that. But you have to look at Nezov's aggression. He just has that fire in his eyes, and you can see it by the way he's driving. Smart defending. This is good hard racing.
This is absolutely fantastic stuff. The drivers, you know, when you see the drivers putting 2 wheels on the grass at nearly every corner, that is when you know they are pushing well to right up to the limit and sometimes beyond it, really on the very knife edge of what these cars are capable of, which is a lot. Nazov still the driver holding that top 10 spot, but with 15 minutes to go, goodness me, this is going to come back and forth all the way through. Now, of course, a few of our drivers who hit problems early on, one of them, Jaime Fierro, in 15th position, although he got he had a spin or a collision with Kirill Kolobutsov at the Hatzenbach pocket. He is recovering well. So, what do we see here? Oh, Kolobutsov, actually, there was a bit of contact from Nezov to the car in front, who then got into Kirill Kolobutsov. So actually, Kolobutsov just got a little bit unlucky there, Soumil.
Yeah, exactly. It's happened quite a fair bit to Kirill Kolobutsov. Unfortunately, finds himself in the gravel trap often, this time not his fault. Ah, Lichtenhagen, that's such a shame for him. Remember, he won the AM category race at Imola the last time out, and really, that's a bit of a crazy error right there, missing his braking marker. But look at this one. This is awesome. Wow, Alexei Nezov forced off the track by Oscar Wilkins, but he comes back on and gets the position. I'm not sure what kind of race control we'll have, but I'm sure Wilkins will be fighting back and fighting hard. Look at this.
Oh, brilliant stuff. I love that. Alexei Nezov saying, well, if you want to run me out onto the grass, don't run me out onto the paved runoff because I'll use it. And he did there to defend his position. Absolutely fantastic. This is a proper street fight going on here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup, and this is what we've come to expect in this format. Of course, it's not just the race win we need to keep an eye on, it's always those top 10 positions, whether it be in the heats or in the consolation race, where only 10 drivers do get through to make up the 30 car grid for the feature, which of course runs 10 minutes longer than the heats. 20 minutes for our heats, 30 minutes for the feature, and that changes the complexion of things quite a bit as well. Well, back at the front, it's relatively serene compared to these guys. Koiter leading from Lauritsen, who's now, so Lauritsen has got by Kane Halliburton, and actually Lauritsen and Koiter starting to drop Halliburton, Soumil.
Yeah, exactly. Kane Halliburton losing a little bit of pace right here, and so that Dream Racecraft 1-2 has been broken for now. But what I'm really intrigued to see is what happens right here. Alexander Lauritsen, fresh off some really good momentum at Imola, getting that much-deserved podium that he eventually got right there for the EXA Simpower team. But Sam Koiter, Peter, we don't speak about it enough, but last time out, apart from Brian Lockwood, it was also Sam Koiter who lost the potential win in the feature race with all the tangling that happened with Quinton Violate. So Koiter as well, all here to make a mission, all here to prove what he's actually got underneath that car, because he really has been the biggest rising superstar of this championship, and he's not got that one big win this season. Could be coming.
I think you could be absolutely right, Soumil. Of course, we've had 3 different winners so far here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. We had Kevin Nielsen at Mid-Ohio. We had Brian Lockwood at Zolder. We had Maxim Ramstein last time out at Imola. And I tell you what, you could be absolutely spot on. We could be on for a 4th different winner here. Sam Koiter looking very, very strong. 158.9 last time by. Very, very fast pace indeed. Just gone over the line, 159.2. Just a tenth slower than Lauritsen, but that might be because he's having to now just be a little bit more defensive with Lauritsen climbing all over his bumper.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going on right now. And it will surely lose them a little bit of time if they go fighting against each other. But let's see how it goes. It could perhaps introduce Kane Halliburton back into this battle right now. Who knows which way the next 11 minutes are going to pan out. What is going to be very interesting is this dynamic of teammates creating a bit of a sandwich right now. So what you are seeing right now is an onboard from Justin Remscar. He drives for the Sim Racing Love Volante racing team. And ahead of him is Alexei Nezov, who's had a brilliant battle with Justin Rem's teammate, that is Oscar Wilkins. In this sandwich, what sort of an effect can that teamwork create? Well, it can really create some drama out, because Rem can challenge Nezov and force him in a bit of a psychological error of sorts, and that can give a really good window for Oscar Wilkins to create a big gap. it could be the opposite as well. Oscar Wilkins can bunch him up and maybe allow Justin Rehm to get that ever so important P10 position in. Who knows which way this is going to go?
This is, I think, a fascinating discussion point, Soumil, because, of course, in outdoor motorsport, shall we say, they always say that your first enemy is your teammate. The word teammate is a bit of an oxymoron in many in many ways. And they collaborate usually particularly in sprint racing, where your teammate's in another car, identical-ish to yours. You need to beat them, otherwise you'll have question marks. Oh, now as Halliburton hits issues and he's had a crash at the chicane, he has recovered and he's back to 5th. But that actually leaves his, funnily enough, talking of his teammate, that leaves his teammate Sam Coiter a little bit more exposed. So let's see what happens to Halliburton here. And just hits the curb a little bit hard and whoop, round he goes. That's a bit of a 9/11 weight transfer incident there, isn't it? It just started to turn on him. But coming back to the teammate dynamic, in sim racing it's quite different, because usually teammates in a sim team, they're normally a collaboration of drivers who have got together to make a sim racing team. Sometimes it's different, but in general, usually you'll be all connected by voice to your teammates, and there's much more collaboration, way more collaboration between teammates than there is in real life racing.
That's absolutely correct. They'll be working with each other for hours and hours and hours during the weeks in joint practice sessions, training sessions, and you might be thinking, yeah, but Soumil, this car is not very open in terms of setup, right? So what kind of changes can you do as a team working together? Well, that is correct. The racing iRacing upgrades have made sure that this car is close to being a fit setup car, so there's really not much that you can toggle and play around with. But just the psychological effect of practicing with your teammates, knowing a really good target to work against, can help out a lot in terms of improving a driver. And we've seen that, for instance, with the likes of the VRS Quiner Junior team that's recently come up. That sort of environment, you're seeing young kids, 14-year-old kids, because they're mentored by the right drivers, they know some really good racecraft, race awareness, which you normally wouldn't expect. So that sort of thing can really be grown and developed when you are working in that sort of team environment as well. So it's really critical. Unlike in the world of Formula One or single-seater racing, teamwork here is absolutely critical in ensuring a great result.
It definitely is. When you're out there on track, if you've got allies, it makes the job so much easier. Well, you just had to look at any of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup races this year, and like you mentioned, Coanda with I think 12 cars, as we see Lauritsen going for the inside on Coiter. And Coiter sees it coming, then goes to snick the inside line back again, shut the door. Lauritsen actually has to come out the throttle and actually tap the brakes slightly. Little bit of contact nose to bumper there. Coiter just hangs on to it. And I tell you what, the next 7.5 minutes are going to be long for Sam Coiter with Lauritsen all over his case.
Oh yes, this is a proper intense battle right here between Alexander Lauritsen, who's recently come of age pretty much. Lauritsen has been growing in stature and confidence quite a lot in the last few weeks. And then there is Sam Coiter, who I guess has been, I think, the biggest rising star we've seen in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup since the first season. So yeah, this is going to be quite fun to see which way this plays out, because both these drivers a lot to prove. Both of them not yet winning a race in this championship, but it certainly seems like they've got that confidence in their stride, and they could very well be on the trot to win one here.
They need to be slightly careful though, because if they start battling too hard, they'll have Kamil Grabowski and Florian Lebiger all over their case, and that's not a favourable situation, or as Ron Dennis would have said, suboptimal.
Suboptimal. Gotta love Ron Dennis and his simplicity, haven't you?
I admit my favourite Ron Dennis story actually involves Tommy Byrne, who for many was one of the most raw natural talents ever in motor racing, and but to say he was he wasn't a political guy, let's just put it that way. And he went for a meeting with McLaren, and he'd been very fast in a test with them, and they basically Ron Dennis told Tommy Byrne he wasn't getting the drive, and he said, "Oh well, all our money's tied up in R&D at the moment." And there was an expletive in there. He says, "What's R&D?" He did got the look. They got the wrong glare apparently. Oh no! Now who was that? I think it was that Parker or Fierro. I think it was Jaime Fierro who just had the reactions of a cat on Red Bull. So Justin Rem spins the 188 car there. So he's broadside across the circuit.
Oh boy!
Who was that? We've got one of the Impulse Racing cars as well. And then here comes Jaime Fierro driving along. I'm here at the Nurburgring. Oh my goodness me! There's a car in the racing line. They did well there.
Oh goodness! If you're Jaime Fierro right now, change of underpants, preferably. That got really scary right there for him. Good on him that he actually had just a little bit of reaction time available to dodge that one. Could have been far, far worse. Could have really been far, far worse for him right there. Wait, one thing I'm actually surprised to see, Peter, so far in this race is that Cengiz Cioglu, of course, who got a qualifying ban, by the way, he's still only in P number 14, which is unusual of him because Cioglu has got so much of raw pace within him, which is characteristic of the Anatolia Racing team that we've got right here. Still, bit of an absurd one to see him only in P number 13. I thought he'd be making his way up to, say, the top 10 by this stage, but who knows, maybe he can shine up in the Consolation race, where he will be if it stands the way it does right now. If.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs and buts. We've got B. Will it be? In fact, we'll likely just get an extra lap here at the Nurburgring. I think, yes, we will, just about. So it's going to be, I hope everyone's got enough fuel on board because we're going to be just about heading the end of the 20-minute period, but have to go around for one more lap. So hopefully there's no drivers who are close. So this is going to go right down to the wire then between Kuijtert and Lauritsen. And actually the only thing that's a bit of a crumb of comfort for Kuijtert and Lauritsen is that Grabowski and Lebiger look like they're about to square off for a punch-up. So that's actually keeping them at bay from the very lead.
Indeed it is. That is going to be a bit tricky. Remember, you can't quite score points in the heat race. So you've got to get in there into the feature race to really get some good points, or in the Consolation, but then again, that won't give you as many good points, will it? So that's an interesting one. They have to fight, they have to make the best of this one and get a good slot in there. So, bit of a fun battle this. So it's not just for the sake of pride that they're racing here, but also some really good qualifying positions in the feature race, because remember, the higher up you start, well, naturally, the better chance that you have of finishing in a good position right there in the feature race.
Yeah, it's critical, absolutely critical. Whoa, big moment there for Pascal Costa, getting all kinds of lit up there over Michael Schumacher S's. You want to be careful, you don't have too many of those moments with 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go in 6th position. So he's well in the feature race right now as Pascal Costa. If he were to stay where he was, he would start from the 6th row of the grid for the feature race. At the moment, it's Sam Kuijtert who's got that last spot on the front row of the grid at the moment, but Alexander Lauritsen really throwing everything at it to try and pinch that one away. And it's just incredible. You see just the sheer depth of field here in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup. As you see, Lebiger now going past Costa, so a little bit of a sluggish exit for Costa, and Lebiger having a go. In fact, actually, it's Costa having a go on Lebiger for 5th position now. So Costa on the move, and that's a bit naughty from Pascal to move under braking. I'm never a fan of that, I'll be honest, Soumil.
Yeah, that's far from ideal, right? It's just a common racing knowledge that you cannot move under braking. Not ideal right there, but here comes Florian Lebiger. He said, okay, if you can do that, I can make contact.
My mother always said 2 wrongs don't make a right.
That's true.
And she is a wise lady.
Uncharacteristic of Florian Lebiger, let's put it that way.
Well, yes, indeed. And, Pascal Costa still keeps his spot in the top 10, but drops back a couple of spots. And now Kane Halliburton says thank you very much. He's going to have a go now at Lebiger. But back at the front, Sam Kuijtert and Alexander Lauritsen absolutely playing for keeps. There will be the white flag being shown. I'm pretty sure anyway it should be. I don't think they're going to reach the end of the allotted time before they reach the line, so they'll have to go around for one more lap. And I don't think that's the news that Sam Coitert was looking for right now, as he's the man holding the golden prize. But
the orange one.
Oh yeah, yes, he's holding the orange wheels anyway. That's for sure. Very, very patriotic. And look at that, Coitert going very, very, very defensive. Picks his line early, doesn't move under braking. Good stuff. That's very, very good there from Sam Coitert. Just make sure that he covers his line well. Lauritsen doesn't seem to think so. He's flashing his lights. And yes, they are going to go around for one more lap, Soumil.
Indeed they are, which means a couple of more opportunities for Alexander Lauritsen to show his attacking prowess, and a couple of more opportunities for Sam Coitert to show why he is one of the top talents in this championship. If he can hold Lauritsen on, it can really be a big, big win for him. I think it'll be 2 consecutive heat race wins in a row for Sam Coitert, which is huge, by the way. Let's see what happens right now. Heading towards the sunset, so the temperatures on the track will be just dropping on, but the intensity will just make it even more sweaty and even more hot for all the drivers going on inside their sim rigs.
Yeah, and I tell you what, when you've got that glare of the sun in your eyes, which iRacing does simulate, it's well, you kind of wish it was a little bit less sophisticated at that point, because you've got to do the Ari Vatanen one hand off the wheel and keep it out your eyes. But it looks like Sam Coitert's pretty comfy through the first part of the lap. Although Kamil Grabowski he's in third, but a little bit too far behind, I think, to feature unless something crazy happened to Coitert and Lauritsen. But through the Michael Schumacher race they go. Is Lauritsen going to have another go, or is he just going to accept, okay, second row will do, let's pick it up and go for the feature race, which is always where the big points are handed out. No points handed out until we get into the feature race. There are some for the consolation race if you don't get through, but the big points all handed out in the feature race. Round they go to the chicane for the final time. Lauritsen looks to be a little bit too far back. Coitert can take his normal line, and it's been an excellent performance from the Dutch star with those bright orange wheels. Nice and easy to spot him out on track. So the number 28 Racecraft eSports car of Sam Coitert, it will be your winner, but I feel there is fireworks going off at the chicane further back. Coitert won't mind. He is your winner. He'll start on the front row of the grid. Kane Halliburton and Pascal Costa trading positions here as well. It's going to go in favour of Costa. Halliburton has to go 7th. Now, can he stick the landing? Yes. Yes, he can. Dear me.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy race right here, and I loved it. Coitert just sustaining the pressure, much like a sponge, really absorbing all that was thrown at him. Good battles right there. And the best part is just a precursor to what we are actually going to see in the feature race.
Yep, indeed it is. That's a precursor is the exact word I would use as well. Alexei Nezov getting in there as well, Thomas Gildelion. But let's have a look at the results of how they finished there in the second heat here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup Round 4. Sam Coitert then your winner by 0.4 of a second from Alexander Lauritsen. Kamil Grabowski rounds out the podium. We'll start on the third row of the grid for the feature race. Dylan Burse, a great drive from the young Aussie, finishing in 4th. Florian Lebiger was 5th, followed by Pascal Costa, Kane Halliburton, Alexei Nezov, Oscar Wilkins, and Thomas Gildelion takes the final spot on the feature race grid. So this is how they line up for the consolation race. Basti Matler on pole position alongside Marcel Jochheim. Rebecca Pauline and Senk Insioglu start on row 2 with Martin Donati and Gilham Pipers on the third row. Martin Spalek and Jaime Fierro start on row 4 with Clement Andriot and James Parker on row 5. Nelson Costa de Souza and Hendrik Lichtenhagen start on your 6th row of the grid. Alexander Hetmank and Justin Rem start on row 7, followed by David Ward, Kirill Kolobuksov, Lewis Ward and Jan Schmitz rounding out row 9. And Mike Westkop-Syker rounds out your 19 car grid. 19 cars, 10 spots in the feature race. Soumil, I am not a fan of those odds.
Yep. Clearly, one of the hardest races to be a part of. Only 10 of them go past. And more often than not, we get to see some rather crazy carnage going on here. Even more so, that can be the case when the lights are dipping here at the Nurburgring. We are properly getting to dusk. Surviving this is not going to be easy by any means whatsoever.
A brilliant close-up shot here of Rebecca Pauline's Bumblebee spec Simpower fiercely forward machine. Looks brilliant. I'm not normally a white wheels fan, but that looks very, very nice indeed on that 911 GT3 Cup machine. 4 litre flat 6, naturally aspirated, no turbos here, no traction control, no ABS. You are on your own. It is a pure driver's car, and a very unapologetically a 911 as well. A 4 litre flat 6 mounted over the rear wheels. Brilliant traction out the corner, very unique handling characteristics. So we get 19 cars lining up here, 10 go through to the feature race. Will we see, we've seen carnage into turn 1 twice already. Will we make it 3 here? Hopefully not. Hopefully they all make it in safe. Bastian Mattler will start on pole position in the number 198 car. The lights are being prepared. We're about to go racing here in the Consolation race. It's the last chance saloon at the Nurburgring. Revs rise up and off we go, and it's a rocket start there from the number 15 of Rebecca Pauline going down into turn 1, 3 wide. Mattler, the pole sitter, is going to get swallowed up here as well. Marcel Jochheim going in there as well. Rebecca Pauline around the outside, and she hits the front. What a start from third on the grid.
Indeed, just rocketing past up like a bumblebee more or less into P number 1 for the fiercely forward car right there. At the back to Bastian Mattler as well under a bit of pressure. Right now, seems like for the first time today, we have a clean start.
We do, in the Consolation race. Who said that they were crazy? This is real manners here in the Consolation race as we come into the dusk here at the Nurburgring. So Rebecca Pauline leads away for fiercely forward in the number 15 car. Marcel Jochheim behind her in the blue and white car. Bastian Mattler in the white and red machine with Senking Sioglu. We'll watch out for that car because Senk is super quick. There's some big names in this race actually, Soumil.
There really are some properly big names, and some properly big names with a point to prove. Alexander Hetmak now on the bubble position, trying to get something on right here on Justin Rem, who's up ahead. But before that, has to defend from one Nelson Costa de Souza, who, by the way, was doing a very good job in this heat race until he had a spin. So, what can he make of it right now?
Well, it would, again, very easy to spot the number 119 of Nelson Costa de Souza out on track. The tomato ketchup car, we could call it. As we come into the chicane, now this is where you've got to be so careful going in on the first lap. Still cold tyres, cold brakes, and they all get through very admirably actually, because it's such a bottleneck into that chicane. But look at Senkin Sioglu, the Turkish driver, on the charge already and really carving through the pack with gusto. He's up into 4th position. Is he going to try and make the move here on Bastian Mattler in 3rd? Certainly have to be very late on the brakes. You see the brake lights come on there. Mattler late on the brakes too. And absolutely perfect braking point there. And Nsioglu has to wait another time.
Oh, no!
Chaos behind. Martin Spalik around.
Again, unfortunately.
Oh dear. And that's, I think that is Clement Andriot as well. Yes, it is. Who's had a problem there. And Lewis Ward too.
That, Peter, has to be the second time today that we have seen Martin Spalik being turned around in his race. Just like Pauline and Lockwood, under that cloud of bad luck, it seems right now, has to do something special to get that position in. But the big news is Alexander Hetmak also being taken out in that accident that we saw. And Hetmak was right on the bubble.
Yep, that's it's taken a few high-profile names out there as Rebecca Pauline goes a little bit wide at the hairpin, but able to tuck it back, get the car pointed straight, and get back on the power again. Open up that 4-litre flat 6. Let's get a look at our Alcantech.com replay, and Spalik actually, just couldn't quite get it slowed down enough. Yeah. The line sort of closed, the door sort of shut in front of him a little bit as well. I think, actually, I would like to say that's a racing incident, but I'm glad I'm not a steward, put it that way.
Yeah, unfortunately, David Ward a part of it, Lewis Ward a part of it as well. both the wards have been having a bit of a torrid day so far, unfortunately. Sad to see them a part of this incident as well. So yeah, Clement Andriot also involved in this. But let's put that aside. Let's focus on the here and now. Because the here and now is that cars are absolutely being dumped over at that chicane. Justin Rem just defended a position with 2 wheels off in the air. That's how crazy a corner that is. Look at this. This proper kerfuffle is lighting up an amazing battle. I think they're going to go 3 wide here.
I'm going to let you in on a Scottish word here, and it is basically the Scottish for kerfuffle. This is a bruch, is what we call this. It means a bit of a mess. There's cars everywhere. Whoa, who's that gone off? That's Justin Rem, I think. Gone very deep into turn 1. No. Orange wheels, one of the Volante cars. I think it is Rem. Yes, it is. I was waiting for the time. Yes, it was Justin Rem. I should trust my intuition a little bit more.
Just a little bit more, yeah. And one man who's been trusting his intuition quite a lot has been Kirill Kolobuksov here. Unfortunately, having that incident in his heat race, now here with a point to prove. To the outside line, he goes for the wild animals teams, and quite often it hasn't quite worked out too well for him in situations like this one. Now this time, thankfully clean, but not getting the position he really wants to. So what does Kirill Kolobuksov do? He says, I go for the cutback, and the Schumacher S's, they are properly nose to tail here, Peter. And the key part is, this is for the final slot. If Kolobuksov does not get that position in, that's it, that's his weekend done. He does not move into the feature race. This one matters.
Oh, but he's... Tell you what, Nelson Costa de Souza did very, very well to tough that one out, because he was in a really vulnerable position there, and Kolobuksov actually, just to be given his credit, he didn't open the steering up. He made sure just to get a little bit of contact, and then thought, oh well, maybe we're biting off a little bit more than we can chew here. But Kolobuksov looking very, very racy indeed in the 55 car. But I just think that this doesn't necessarily have to be the battle for the final spot in the feature, because there's bound to be stuff going on ahead as well. But tell that to Kirill Kolobuksov, he's like, no, I'm making my way through in a hurry. And very cleverly, Costa de Souza makes sure to take the inside line. Kolobuksov a little bit later on the brakes, he's going to have to go the long way around. Can he make it work? De Souza, oh, is he going to try and get into this? It's very tight. Oh my goodness me. Great racing, and Costa de Souza just gets run a little bit wide there and has to give best. And Kolobuksov gets the position for now, as we see Hendrik Lichtenhagen going by on Westcop Psyker.
Yes, Hendrik Lichtenhagen making a bit of a crazy error, as I described it in the last particular race for the Panda Racing team. Good to see him getting some confidence and making some good moves. Winner of the AM category the last time out at Imola. And speaking of the AM category, by the way, it's a bit of a big battle going on right now, because Matthias worked for the AXS Simsport TV. He was able to make it to the feature race directly. So was Thomas Gulder-Lyon, but not Marcel Jochheim. So what does one Marcel Jochheim, the leader of the AM Championship, do? He goes in and puts the best possible consolation race that he can possibly have. Currently in P number 2, Marcel Jochheim, with only 0.4 of a second behind Rebecca Pauline. So if Jochheim can get this one position, he'll be far, far closer to the likes of Gulder-Lyon, to the likes of Burke, and perhaps even Nick Howard of the Racecraft Esports team, in a bid to defend his AM Championship lead. They've got big prizes for that championship too. It really matters quite a lot here.
Oh, yeah, you bet it does. You bet it does. And this has been a superb drive from both Rebecca Pauline and Marcel Jochheim. Absolutely flawless so far. And don't forget, they've got huge pressure from behind from Sentencioglu. Sentencioglu, one of the fastest drivers in this championship, with an iRating of nearly 6,000. So it's the front at the consolation race, absolutely incredible.
It's crazy to call it a consolation race when you see the kind of drivers that are taking part in this. You know, when you take a look at their capabilities, and I don't count iRating as the right measure to see the driver's talent, because, oh goodness me, I'll come to that in a little bit, because there is a bit of a crazy incident going on. Mike Wisopskiker losing his slot in the feature race, Peter.
Oh, that's a big incident there. I'm going to refrain from saying mistake because it might not have been. We don't know. But Mike Wyskopszyker, that's huge. With 11 minutes to go, he's now got a whole lot of work to do to try and get back into those top 10 positions. You don't want to be going into the final laps relying on a mistake in front. You want to make sure you're there, and if you get freebies, great, you get a slightly better position on the grid in the feature race. So Hendrik Lichtenhagen 8th, Kolobuksov 9th, Nelson Costa de Souza in the Tomorrow Ketchup Mobile. He is holding that last spot to the ball at the moment.
Talk about a vivid description of a livery, by the way.
Oh, that's why I didn't say it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Given a little bit of a help by Kirill Kolobuksov there.
Yeah, forcing his way through. It's a bit crazy. Kolobuksov now getting another position in. This man is a man on a hurry, going side by side with Hendrik Lichtenhagen from the Panda Racing team. Panda versus Wild Animals. Let's see who wins this rather wild battle that we're going to get right now. And it is Kolobuksov. I like this version of Kirill Kolobuksov, Peter. He's got some urgency on his mind, and he's carving his way up as if he's got a knife, and he's carving up some Swiss cheese. That is very good.
Oh, and Lichtenhagen in the space of about 5 corners has gone from safely in the feature to out. He was 8th, he's now 11th. Hendrik Lichtenhagen needs to get back into the groove quickly, because if he loses the tail of this little 4-car pack, then he will be out, and he will be watching the feature race here on RaceSpot TV from his sofa. I mean, as Consolation prizes, maybe that's why it's called the Consolation race, Soumil.
Yeah.
If you don't get through, you get to watch the feature race with us here on RaceSpot TV.
I mean, it's not a very bad prospect, by the way, which I'm sure all of our viewers on RaceSpot TV will agree about, because the battles here have been crazy, but it's always better to be a part of the field driving. Wyskopszyker doing the best that he possibly can, going wheel to wheel right now with Nelson Costa de Souza. Two drivers who've had a very chaotic weekend so far, and the chaos, well, I hope it does not continue, and it hopefully translates into some great symphony, which is what we're seeing right now, nearly being taken out by Lichtenhagen right there. Goodness me, Peter. I mean, it's like when 10 minutes are left in any race in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup, drama just starts to happen.
Yeah, it's like that's at the point where a grenade gets thrown onto the circuit, and it just all of a sudden starts happening very, very quickly. Well, this is why this format here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup is so exciting, because normally the battle, even if it's a close battle like this for 10th position, normally not really that interesting or really that important, but it really matters here. This is the difference of the drivers going into the feature race and scoring the possibility of claiming some big points. If they don't get in the feature race, well, they kind of go home more or less empty-handed, and you don't want to be sitting on the sofa while your competitors are racing around in the 30-minute feature race. It's not a nice feeling. And, well, that's what Hendrik Lichtenhagen is trying to avoid right now as they go over the stripe. 7 minutes and 40 seconds or so to go. Lichtenhagen has got to get a move on here, and Wyskopszyker knows it. And whoa, big send, huge send, huge send. Can Hendrik Lichtenhagen get it slowed down? Just about. And I tell you what there, Soumil, Wyskopszyker saw that coming. He thought, there's no way you're pulling that up in time. I need to give you some room.
Yeah, insightful stuff right there, Peter, because that is what a good driver would do. They recognize when things are not really going their way and they leave it, but look at the margins. Wow, Lichtenhagen really putting his front bumper right onto the back of Nelson Costa de Souza's car. That, if anything, is a big sign of intent from him. He's been fighting hard. Can the Panda Racing team finally claw one up and get that slot in P number 9, making them one position up ahead of that bubble slot?
Well, whoa! And Costa de Souza, that'll be it. That'll be it. A little nudge there to Nelson Costa de Souza, and he's off into the kitty litter and down the order. We'll try and get an Alcontech.com replay for you, but that is Christmas come early for Hendrik Lichtenhagen in the 155 car and for Mike Wyskopszyker. But they've got a bogey coming into this battle David Ward, with Lewis Ward not far behind as well, but David Ward in the 169, now he's in this battle, so there's still going to be a drop spot.
Oh goodness me, this is all just getting too good here as we come to the last 6 odd minutes. Take a look at this one. Wiskop, I hope I get his name correctly, someday finally getting on the curbs. No!
Whoa!
No, he did not get it correct. What happened was that quote-unquote dreadful chicane has got another victim.
Oh my goodness me, this is... who wants this last spot in the feature? Goodness me. So Lichtenhagen now 9th, David Ward in 10th, but going to have a look. Right, here's our Architect.com replay. De Souza in the catch-up machine. Oh, gets a pretty heavy nudge there from Lichtenhagen under braking. And if you're Nelson Costa de Souza, you have got to be absolutely fizzing right now. You know what's happened to Nelson Costa de Souza is, you know when you get those glass ketchup bottles and the ketchup's not coming out and it's not coming out and you're shaking it, and then all of a sudden half the bottle comes out all over your white trousers. That's exactly what's just happened to him.
Exactly, literally that way. And before the race began, there's been so many drivers on the Discord server literally saying that maybe there should be extra points awarded for the most spectacular jump in the chicane. That's what Alexei Nazov said. That was spectacular, but really not working out in his favour eventually. Wiskop now has been number 12.
I think the one thing is for sure, we're never short of action. I'll always be up for a novelty prize, that's for sure. But Westcop Cycle here has really got to get a move on now, because this is getting... You can easily see the air of desperation amongst these drivers now, because that top 10 spot is so critical. We go on about it, but it's so true, and these drivers know that this is absolutely all or nothing. They have to go all in. There's no point standing back here. You have to give everything you've got, and if you end up in the fence, well, so be it. But you cannot go to bed thinking, maybe I should have tried a bit harder there. But this could still rattle on. We've got 4 minutes to go, a couple of laps left here at the Nurburgring, and look at Spalek. Spalek's going to have a look. Is he going to get it slowed down in time? Yes, just about. And decides not to make the move. So at the moment, David Ward has the final spot on the feature race grid.
You know what doesn't help Martin Spalek is the fact that he's got damage on the front left-hand side of his car from the incident we saw early on as well. So even though from his onboards it was very clear that he's properly gunning for the move, he's just not got the pace on the car, and it's not really his fault as well. Take a look at how battered and bruised the front end of his car is. It'll take a real Herculean effort for him to get anywhere close to the top 10 with 3.5 minutes to go, and with that sort of a car. By the way, we're probably getting to dusk, and you're right, Peter, it's going to be much like Interlagos 2020 of the PorscheSport Carrera Cup. Proper darkness, and look at this one. I think drivers are really going to have a tough time with their apexes, and if anything, we are going to see some even more intense racing as we come through to the feature race in a couple of minutes.
Well, I think that there's quite a few drivers, of course, in the feature race who competed in the Nurburgring 24-hour here on iRacing a week or so ago. And that experience, I can tell you, will be very valuable indeed. Of course, Quentin Violati, part of the winning team in this very class with the 911 Cup car. So keep an eye out for him. He'll start on the 4th row of the grid. After serving a qualifying ban, he's going to think this is a huge opportunity. Proper good recovery. As you can see, the lights are now on the cars, and don't they look fantastic under the setting sun here at the Nürburgring. Really good stuff. As Bastian Matler running in 4th at the moment, so that would get him comfortably into the feature race, starting 24th on the grid if he's to hold this spot. But Rebecca Pauline, I tell you what, Soumil, absolutely exceptional stuff from her, because she has had Marcel Joachim on her case for 20 minutes and she has not flinched once.
Absolutely. For Rebecca Pauline, it's been a season full of bad luck, being taken out in every single round. One wonders, what can you do in a situation like this one? Well, Rebecca Pauline responding in the way that every athlete, and even esports drivers, can be counted as athletes, considering the kind of effort that they put into preparing a lot of the times. That every competitor, basically, is what I mean to say, should respond in. Go out there, don't complain. Put the best performance that you possibly can the next time you have an opportunity. Luckily for Rebecca Paulin, that opportunity came in literally a couple of minutes after her heat race ended, and now it could be one big win for that face the forward line on that car right there. But in the AM category too, Peter, this really is going to be a big race for Marcel Jochheim. It could have been far worse. Now, he will be behind some really potent drivers, but if he can get a big jump at the very start of the feature race, we could be in for a properly intense feature race in the AM category. I'm quite keen to see who gets the big jump right there in that one.
Indeed, of course, if you're looking out on circuit, the drivers with 3 numbers on their car are those in the AM class, and 2 numbers or 2 digits, I should say, are the pro class. Rebecca Paulin in the pro class with the number 15 on the car, where Jochheim with the 3 digits, he is in the AM class. So now this is going to be very tight again, whether we get another lap here. This I cannot call it actually, as we come into the final corner, and Marcel Jochheim, the checkered flag is in the air, so this is the last corner then. Jochheim has a little bit of a look, but Rebecca Paulin sees it coming, shows brilliant racecraft, and Rebecca Paulin is your winner here in the consolation race in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. A superb drive from the fiercely forward driver, and Mike Westcop-Syker has ground to a halt at the final chicane. What is going on there? And it looks like it's going to be Justin Rem getting the last spot on the feature race grid, and Martin Spalek, he's the man who's got to watch that last invite flutter away in the wind. Agony here in the consolation race as the sun sets at the Nurburgring.
Indeed, the consolation race always delivers in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup. This is what happened. That is not good for Westcop-Syker right there. He had to pull over, unfortunately, realizing his mistake. And look at this, Justin Rem. Now, isn't that a robbery, Peter? He just robbed the position at the last moment. Reminds me of, if you're a wrestling fan, Seth Rollins has cashed in at WrestleMania 31. Last moment, no opportunity left. You go out there and you create a window for yourself. Justin Rem, top opportunistic stuff.
That's absolutely exceptional stuff there from Justin Rem to grab a spot in the feature on the last corner. Absolutely exceptional. So, your drivers going through to the feature race: Rebecca Paulin, Marcel Jochheim, Cenk Insioglu, Bastian Mattler, Martin Donati, Jaime Fierro, Kirill Kolobuksov, Gilham Pipers, Hendrik Lichtenhagen, and Justin Rem getting that final spot on the feature race grid. Martin Spalek, Nelson Costa de Souza, Lewis Ward, James Parker, David Ward, Clement Andriot, Mike Westcop-Syker, Alex Hetman and Jan Schmitz all have to park up for the night and watch the feature race action from the sidelines. We said it 2 weeks ago, Soumil, that if everything came together for Rebecca Paulin, she would get a race win in this championship, and she has delivered on that promise at the first possible opportunity and made you and I sound very clever indeed.
Yeah, good driving by Rebecca. Really good stuff. And that was some proper pushing at the back from the likes of Marcel Jochheim. And it was the Anatolia car. Oh goodness, how can I just forget the name in 1 second? Cenk Insioglu, that was, And some really good racing. Insioglu, by the way, had a qualifying ban in his heat race. Still a good recovery from him. And this is good stuff, right? You got to see a glimpse of the kind of big drama that you are going to see in the feature race. And I'm pumped, and the best part, Peter, some of the drivers are already talking about 4 wide heading into turn 1, believe it or not.
Well, they might well be talking about it right now. I don't want to hear any complaints if there's contact. We'll see. It's certainly wide enough going in. The problem is that the apex isn't. You might well go in 4 wide, but very, very, very rarely would you come out 4 wide. That's the issue. And well, we'll see how that looks. All I'll say is that in the Nurburgring 24-hour, the pole sitter Gianni Vecchio for Team Redline 24 taken out in turn 1 by an incident, whether it was his fault or not. 24-hour race done on the first corner. So it can happen here at the Nurburgring, and although we're only a 30-minute sprint race here, the end result will be the same. If you get involved in a big tangle here at turn 1, your chances of victory are over, because the field is so deep and so talented that you just will not be able to make up the time. There's no safety cars, nothing like that. It's if you're out at turn 1, that will be you. So warm-up ticks over, and we will be ready to go here for 30 minutes of racing in the feature race here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. We've had 3 different winners from 3 races so far. Can we make it 4? I don't see any reason why not. And let's see how they line up for this feature race here at the Nürburgring in Germany. Kevin Nielsen is your pole sitter, and he will start alongside Sam Kuijter for Racecraft Esports. Maxim Ramstein and Alexander Lauritsen will start on row 2, with Nick Schulte-Wisserman and Kamil Grabowski starting on the 3rd row. Quentin Violati and Dylan Burst will start on row 4, with Gunonzo Tastelen and Florian Lebiger rounding out your top 10. Matthias Burke and Pascal Costa will start on row 6, with Nick Carwood and Kane Halley-Burton starting on row 7. Marco Jaeger and Alexei Nezov are on row 8, with Brian Lockwood and Oscar Wilkins starting on the 9th row. Vince Peters and Thomas Goldelion round out your top 20. Rebecca Pauline, our consolation race winner, starts from 21st, with Marcel Jochheim alongside her on row 11. Cenk Insioglu and Bastian Matler start on row 12, followed by Martin Donati, Jaime Fierro, Kelly Kolobuksov, Gilheim Pipers, and we are already ready to go. It looks like Kevin Nielsen is very keen to get going here in this feature race. Off we go here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Down we go, 30 cars down towards turn 1. Kevin Nielsen takes the racing line. Is Kuijter going to have a look up the inside? He tries it. Nielsen sees it coming now. Who is going to filter in behind the Danishman Kevin Nielsen? Is it going to be Kuijter? It looks like it might well be. Is Kuijter going to have a move for the lead here with the orange wheels? Maxim Ramstein, his countryman, tries to go around, but it looks like it's just going to be Kuijter. Goodness me, that was busy.
That was properly busy right there. Kevin Nielsen, the newly formed privateer who just left AXA Simsport in his new colours, leading from the top. Behind him, Racecraft Esports' Sam Kuijter, who we saw in with a commanding drive. But let's focus on this one, the 34 and the 48. Nick Schulte-Wisserman for Urano Esports, fending off Alexander Lauritsen. Now this is a battle that I would love to watch. Both drivers, by the way, upwards of 7.5k iRating, if you want to get a representative idea of how good their iRating is, which I don't think is a representative measure of their talent, but still you get the idea. They are embroiled in a feisty battle, as is Kuijter.
Yeah, I always find iRating is a good way to measure experience, because to get it up to 8,000, you've got to do an awful lot of races at any level to get it to that level. But Nielsen leads from Kuijter, from Maxim Ramstein in 3rd, the ever-consistent Dutchman, as they come up to the chicane for the first time. Now this is going to be very, very tight here, with the vision getting worse and worse as the light comes down. Can all the drivers get through there nice and clean? They go firing over the curbs, puffs of brake smoke there as well, tyre smoke as well, getting a little bit busy there as well. And whoop, one of the Impulse Racing cars.
Oh no!
Oh, I think that was Nezov as well.
Wide.
4 wide into the final corner. That never works. Right enough, it doesn't. And it's an absolute plane crash there at the final corner. Oh my goodness me, chaos.
I think that was Nick Harwood, Peter. I think that was your AM category leader who got involved in that one.
I think there was more than one driver involved in that, that's for sure. I think Nezov was involved too. He's got going again.
Brian Lockwood is in 17th.
Yep. He's had a... Oh dear. This is getting very, very vicious very early on here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup feature race. Got one of the Florian Lebiger dropped all the way down the order as well. Goodness me. But back at the front, Kevin Nielsen, he will not care a jot. He'll have no idea that's going on behind him. He's more concerned about keeping Sam Kuijter behind him, and also Maxim Ramstein there in 3rd.
So that craziness, Peter, that has seen Bastian Matler, who was our star performer in the consolation race, being taken out. Kane Halley-Burton of Racecraft Esports also getting out there, along with Marcel Jochheim, one of the top drivers in the AM category. This is a significant one. Well, look at this. So we saw one of the Impulse cars lose it. There we go side by side. That is not going to end well, is it? Oh God, Kane Halliburton launched up into space. You know how that happened? Matthias Berg was in there, and when he goes 4 wide at that corner, there is no chance, absolutely no chance that you are going to leave safe. Made even worse by the fact that there was a car spun off at the exit right there. Clearly no way for Kane Halliburton to survive. End off, that's it, he's gone from this race.
Yeah, nothing he could do there. Florian Lebeger had spun, and to be honest, Florian Lebeger had actually done what you're supposed to do: stay still, don't move, and let the cars come around you. But not normally do you see 4 drivers come round side by side around the final corner, and unfortunately Kane Halliburton was the driver who was in the path of Lebeger's stricken Porsche, and that could have actually been even worse than it already was, if that were possible. Anyway, back to the front. Not all bad news for R8G Esports, the team owned by Romain Grosjean, former F1 driver, new IndyCar driver, of course. The winners of the 24 Hours of Nurburgring 911 Cup class here on iRacing last weekend. Quentin Violati serves a qualifying ban and running up in the top 5 early on in the feature race. That is what I would call a result.
Yeah, Quentin Violati, a proper hotshot in this championship. Just backing his style, backing his approach. And his similar approach can be seen right there with Kamil Grabowski, who's got a move right now on Alexander Lauritsen. And I love Alexander Lauritsen's fighting spirit. He will not let him go. What's that phrase again? Elbows out, right?
Elbows out and sharpen them as well. As we see, Lauritsen going up the inside of someone who has equally sharp elbows. There you go, Kamil Grabowski, and straight on the headlight flasher as well. And Lauritsen's not going to care a jot about that. He's off in hot pursuit of Dylan Burst, who's had a superb meeting so far, running in 6th position for Vendaval Sim Racing, a team that have got a lot of young drivers who are just making their steps into either out of karting or into single seaters as well. Of course, Max Esterson racing in British Formula Ford this year, actually, in fact, for Low Dempsey Racing. So that's going to be exciting to watch his progress. But he's one of the top racers on iRacing as well, and actually has sponsorship from iRacing too.
Indeed. Yeah, he's one driver really to watch out for. But a bit of bad news, unfortunately. Oscar Wilkins, Henrik Lichtenhagen, both of them also in the pit lane. Again, a couple of incidents happening at the back there. There was some really star performance, especially Wilkins. He was involved in such a good battle in the first heat race with Alexei Nazov. Real shame to see him in that position. But what's good to see, Peter, is that initially when we came into the season, right, and after the first round, we thought that there'd be a few drivers who'll be really fighting for wins, as we see this brilliant scrap between Grabowski and Lauritsen right now. I thought, bit of a touch. I'll get to that point later, because Gunnar Tasdalen is carving up his way within that. He's being pushed wide onto the grass. No, that is not nice. But Tasdalen can't be bothered. He's going to go send it down the inside now.
Oh, this is getting very feisty indeed, and as Grabowski's just still got about the edge there as well. Tasdalen gives him the room as they head down towards the hairpin. Who's going to have a go here? Is it going to be Grabowski? No, decides to cut in behind Tasdalen, and all that argy-bargy has allowed Lauritsen just to escape a couple of car lengths up the road, a couple of vital car lengths up the road. Whereas, interestingly, we see at the front of the pack at this stage of the race, of course it's a longer race, it's half an hour rather than the usual 20 minutes. This is interesting. We see the guys at the front, they're all just keeping nice and clean and tidy, because they know that it's important to let the field stretch out a bit and to not have too many protagonists at the front, because that's when things get messy.
And I get a feeling that we will have too many protagonists, which just leads into the point that I was making early on, right? When we came in at the end of the first round of the championship, there was a positive feeling that, okay, who are the potential race winners that we've got? We've got Kevin Nielsen, we've got Brian Lockwood, we've got Sam Coitert, Maxime Ramstein, Quentin Violati, and who else? But perhaps possibly Gunnar Tasdalen as well. Now you're seeing the likes of Nick Schulte, Wisseman join this pack. Now you're seeing the likes of Alexander Lauritsen, Dylan Burst join this mix as well. I am loving this. I'm loving how many new stars we are actually creating in this championship and how many drivers are progressing up and challenging those established names at the top. This is brilliant. A battle now between the two heat race winners after an alternate doctor replay, of course.
Indeed, yes, that's not handy at all for that number 113 car. And, well, now just a case of trying to gather as many points as possible.
Jaime Fierro there, having that accident right there at the chicane. Bit of a tricky spot to be in. Meanwhile, Quinton Violatti, a man who backs his aggressive style, he's gotten into trouble for that before, but he can't be bothered about that. Violatti reminds me a lot of, say, a young Cristiano Ronaldo. He can't be bothered if he doesn't defend, so what? He's going to go pick his style and go out with it right till the very end. And that's interesting. What will Nick Schulte-Wisserman do? And it's interesting, isn't it, Peter? Because Nick Schulte-Wisserman, in the last few weeks, he really has evolved as a driver. And we are getting to see the best of him right now in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup this time out.
Indeed, of course, running in the top split for the Nurburgring 24-hour with Urano Esports in their BMW M4 GT3 prototype, which was very much the favoured car at the Nurburgring 24 last week. But Koiter keeping the pressure on to Kevin Nielsen. He has closed that gap up ever so slightly as well, so not allowing Nielsen to escape. Now, when will he make a move? You know he's not going to sit there all race long. You know he's going to try if he can. It might well be here. He's right in the slipstream here as well. Will Koiter go for the move on the brakes? He looks up the inside, just tries to intimidate Nielsen slightly, but Kevin Nielsen, you'll need to do more than that to intimidate this man.
Exactly, Kevin Nielsen, man of steel pretty much. His defense has been impeccable so far in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup, winner of the first round at Mid-Ohio, which is a proper driver's track. Enough said. That should give you a good idea of what kind of a driver Kevin Nielsen actually is. But behind a main championship protagonist for the first season of the PorscheSport Carrera Cup, which began incidentally at this very track, it is Maxime Ramstein, who happened to be the winner of the last round at Imola. So Ramstein self-admittedly has not had the best of pace this season, but the way his racecraft has been very, very smooth has gotten some really good results, Peter. Something tells me that when we get to that sort of 10-minute mark right at the very end, Ramstein is really going to pounce. He really wants to get one up on his compatriot, isn't it, Sam Koiter?
Indeed, yes. The two Dutch stars here, Sam Koiter and Maxim Ramstein. And, well, Koiter looking very racy indeed there for Racecraft Esports. Team boss Brian Lockwood in 14th at the moment, with Rebecca Pauline up to 15th. So good progress from Rebecca, 6 spots up from her grid position. Now, is this where Koiter makes his move? At the chicane, it's certainly a tricky place to go. He's alongside. He's going to have to go for it. There he goes. Is he going to be able to get the move sealed up? Beautifully tidy as well. Kevin Nielsen makes sure to give the room. Koiter is through. Will Nielsen try to retaliate here, or will he sit in here and try and get a bit of study on his rival? We're not at half race distance yet, so plenty time to go here at the Nürburgring.
Kevin Nielsen largely is going to be a driver that really studies his opponent and takes his time and moves out at the right time. So I doubt he's going to make a move in the next couple of laps. But when he bounces, you know that there's going to be some drama right here in store with us. And the same can be said for one Maxime Ramstein. They pick their moment. That's the good thing with really experienced drivers, Peter. They pick their moment especially well, and that can only come with experience, which these guys have in acres pretty much. They've got tons of it.
Yeah, that they do. They race at the top level and regularly as well. I think that's the important part as well, is racing at the top level of competition all the time. Of course, whenever any of these drivers switch on their computer and just go for an official race, one of the kind of roll-up races here on iRacing, they will be against drivers of similar level. That's the thing, especially in the Porsche Cup, where there's so many drivers taking part. that there's always top drivers taking part in this machine, so you're never short of competition, that's for sure. You see Gononzo Tastelin going past Alexander Lauritsen, and that's put him into a really perilous position, because now he's side by side with Kamil Grabowski and actually loses the spot, does Lauritsen, in the 48. Grabowski goes through now. Is Pascal Costa going to have a look? Well, this is of course Grabowski, Costa and Nielsen, all part of the ARA Porsche Cup a couple of weeks ago, where Grabowski came out on top, but these guys were the three top drivers.
Aha, interesting. Now Grabowski has a chance to do it again, try to get the one-up on their rivals once more. Let's see what happens right now. I know from experience that these guys will take their time. There's no hurry for them. There's no special kind of feeling that, okay, I've got to do it right here, right now. And as I say that, Grabowski really trying to get one up on them. But knowing them, they know the right place to attack. That's the fun part. Let's see what happens right now. Oh, harsh defending there from Gononzo Tastelin. And Grabowski is going for the full send. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Cue the drum roll.
Oh, here goes Lauritsen as well. He's very late in. Tastelin goes to shut the door. Goodness me, Tastelin shuts the door. Grabowski has to give best. Lauritsen shuts the door ahead of Pascal Costa. Oh, dear me, and Lauritsen just a little bit deep on the brakes. And I tell you what, I've got an eye on Grabowski here. He looks very, very racy in that 9.6 car.
He does. And it's controlled aggression, more importantly. He's not going for dumb sends where things will not work out. He's playing it smart. He's playing the long game while reminding his opponents that, hey, I'm right here, mate. You better block off your racing lines, because when I see a chance, oof, I'm going to be sending it to get that position. And incidentally, it's created a second back of sorts. Because of Grabowski and Tastelin's pace, they are leaving behind the likes of Lauritsen and Costa just by a little bit. But I tell you, they'll be getting back to each other in no time right now.
Interestingly, at the front, Kenton Violati about 0.7 of a second back on the leading trio. Violati last time by a 1:59.0, so he's right there on the pace of the leaders. But he does trying desperately. He took 0.2 of a second out of Ramsden last time by, and all of a sudden, he's right in the fight. Now, what is... So Kevin Nielsen now dropping off the scent. Where is Maxim Ramstein? Oh, there's something going on here. Oh my goodness me, you look down at the timing screen once, and goodness me, Keutert's away in the lead. Maxim Ramstein drops miles back. Nielsen's dropped miles back. Violati's nearly in second. What on earth has been going on here? Well, Nielsen got a little bit of damage on the front of the car there. There's a story there too. Now it's Nielsen versus Violati. Dylan Burrs on the outside line there as well. You can see Ramstein at the back of the shot. And Sam Keutert, this is his opportunity. He's got to lay down as fast a lap as he possibly can here to try and move ahead.
How did this happen? How did he lose pace so dramatically? What it does, by the way, is give Sam Keutert a big chance to register his first win in this championship, which will be coming full circle considering where we saw him at the start of the first season and where he is right now. Amazing stuff that would be. But what I'm really confused to see is why? Why has Maxim Ramstein dropped to P5? Why has Kevin Nielsen developed such a big gap? That is unusual. You don't often get to see this, but hey, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to see Dylan Burrs versus Quinton Violati versus Kevin Nielsen. Am I a sad man because of that? Absolutely not. This is just going to get butterflies in my stomach now.
Yeah, there's definitely something happened on that last lap, because Maxim Ramstein a 2:02.4, and these guys are normally lapping around the 1:59.0 mark. So we will get a look at what happened to the 29 car of Maxim Ramstein, because it's definitely had an effect with Kevin Nielsen as well, that's for certain. But this is Keutert's opportunity. This is his opportunity where he's now out of the draft range as well. That's very important with these cars. They do give off a reasonable draft, so if Keutert can keep out of that draft range, he will be safe. And also you've got to think that Violati, Nielsen and Burrs are going to start fighting with one another. Wow, big moment there for Violati.
Of course, they are going to be fighting against each other. It's a renewed Dylan Burst with some special confidence within him. Is he going to pass Violati, who defends hard, much like Schumacher and Barrichello, only turning the intensity one level down and being a bit more sane. Here he comes, Dylan Burst, the Aussie, making a move on the Frenchman, and they're still going side by side. And you know what? They are going to be trading blows all the way through the arena section, Peter.
They are, and what they're allowing is Kevin Nielsen to escape here as well. This is exactly what Kevin Nielsen needs now. Can Kevin Nielsen, our winner at Mid-Ohio in round one, of course, our Heat 1 winner, pole sitter for this race, can he catch up with Sam Coiter? He's 1.6 seconds back at the moment, and with about 6 laps to go. So he's going to have to really get a move on and quick if he wants to catch Sam Coiter.
You're absolutely right. Sam Coiter, when he flies, he really flies off. He's got some proper pace in there. And even taking a look at the lap times, it just must be unusual lap data. It's not a sustained drop in pace for the likes of Kevin Nielsen and Maxime Ramstein. In fact, Ramstein is clocking faster lap times than Coiter, Nielsen and Quinton Violati. So that is confusing. It's still going to be a very dramatic thing to wonder what happened to him and Nielsen. But whatever, they are clocking in faster lap times. Both Nielsen and Ramstein are doing what they can do to make sure that this situation works out in their favour eventually.
Yeah, it was definitely an incident of some sort, that's for sure, as Maxim Ramstein has indeed pulled out an enormous amount of pace in that last lap. Clearly knows he's got to make up for lost time, 158.8. That's one of the fastest race laps we've seen all night long here in round 4 of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. And well, what that means is that Ramstein, as you can say, he's got plenty of pace, but he's going to have to deploy it, and he's going to have to deploy it quick because there are a lot of quick drivers in front of him. Let's see what the lap time is here for Ramstein. Can he follow that 158.8 up? No, 159.6 last time for Ramstein. So the lap times are all over the shop at the moment.
They are. Bit absurd when you come to this part of the race where you expect them to be all consistent and pinpoint accurate in terms of getting one up on their rivals, but this will create some pockets of gaps is what I mean to say, and that can kind of slow down the pace a little bit until we get to that 7-minute left mark. That is just proper characteristic of this championship. Whenever we get to that particular mark, all hell breaks loose and we get to see some of the most intense battles that you can find on Racespot TV, or for that matter on any sim racing broadcasting channel. Meanwhile, update on Brian Lockwood, only up to P12, Peter.
Yeah, it's been a tough day for Brian. He kind of got off on the wrong foot in the heat race, and it just shows you here in this championship, if your night doesn't go absolutely perfectly, it's very difficult to even get in the top 5, let alone on the podium. And that's definitely been the case for Brian Lockwood. He's always been having to fight back, and the fact is the field is just so deep that fighting back can sometimes be an impossible task. But at the moment we are in position to have our 4th winner from 4 meetings here in the Porsche Sport Carrera Cup, which is the sign of just how competitive things are this season. Kamil Grabowski defending very, very hard from Gononzo Tastelin. And this is what dramatic scenes this is here at the Nurburgring with the sun setting, the headlights on. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and iRacing simulating the sky to perfection. It looks absolutely stunning, the graphics right here on iRacing. I love how they've taken their time with the changing night sky graphic, but they've done it extremely well. Lovely stuff to see that one. But a word on Lockwood, Peter. He's P5 entering into this round, and I really thought that he would be a championship contender. Of course, not his fault in many cases, being taken out unfortunately. But what will this do for his championship? He won't be getting major points, whereas his major rivals, like Sam Coiter, like Kevin Nielsen, like Quinton Violati, they'll be getting in a big points haul as Tastelin gets passed by Grabowski.
Then they go 3 wide out of the stadium there as well, and Grabowski grabs it back again. This is getting really, really spicy now as well. This could boil over any minute. as well. Now Ritz in there as well in the 48 machine. Costa at the back of this pack as well, and Castellan, massive moment there, Francois Delacour style. Wowee. Well, to answer your question, Soumil, about Brian Lockwood's championship, the only thing is, and whoa, it's a big mistake there from Castellan.
No.
Gets into the back of Grabowski, and Grabowski easily comes off worse, and he's got to get back going again in 10th position. So that's now 4 becomes 3. So let's see what happens here on Alpintech.com replay. Castellan under braking, and he's moving the steering wheel back and forward, which not always the way to get a car slowed down in the best possible way. Not that I'm giving him driving advice, certainly not, but yeah, strange one there actually, I must say. But coming back to Brian Lockwood's championship chances, of course, out of the 7 rounds here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup, the drivers, of course, can drop 1 round. So if they have a disaster like Brian Lockwood did at Imola 2 weeks ago, he can drop that as well. So it's not ideal, but he needs 3 strong rounds from here, but all is not lost for the 43.
Yeah, all is not lost. What he needs is a bit of a lucky charm of some sort. Really, it's been a crazy one. Now, not really working out in his favour as well, seemingly. Some changes up there in the midfield. But yeah, tricky for him. Let's focus on this though. Pascal Costa has been a really likeable driver in this season, hasn't he, Peter? He's been doing a good job all the way through. P10 in the championship, only 7 points behind Sam Coulthard heading into this round. Costa has been stunning, but he has to prove his worth again, as Gunonso Tasdalen for the Anatolia team is pushing him right down to the ragged edge. This is the kind of action we love and watch.
Oh, this is fantastic as well. You can see Pascal Costa really toughing it out there again on the outside and shuts the door hard. Dear me, and Tasdalen has to just back off ever so slightly. He'll maybe be a little bit spooked after that little bump there with Kamil Grabowski. He'll maybe not want to do something similar again, because the stewards will be keeping a firm eye on that number 5 car to see if the same thing happens again. I don't know if it will, but we'll see. Less than 5 minutes to go here at the Nurburgring, and the gap is coming down between our leader Sam Coulthard and our second place driver Kevin Nielsen. 1.3 seconds or so it's come down a few tenths, but Soumil, I don't know if it's coming down at a fast enough rate for Nielsen to be able to catch.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, Peter, with that. It just could so happen that he could run out of time eventually to make that move. And that reminds me of a quote that I think some famous coach made, that we didn't lose the game, we just ran out of time. Same thing at the end of the day, right? Nielsen will realize that at the end. He will be pushing hard, and that's knowing Kevin Nielsen. He is a driver who always goes for the set very aggressively, much like Quintin Violate.
Oh my.
Forced off the edge onto the gravel. What? He's kept it clean.
I feel there's pre-context to that incident, because that was very aggressive there from Dylan Burst. It did appear that he made sure that Violate went on to out onto the gravel there. Oof, dearie me, it would be interesting to get an onboard there from Dylan Burst's number 68 car, because that was, oh my goodness me, was that spicy. And what that's allowed is Maxim Ramstein to climb himself back onto the podium. So whatever that incident is, we normally do get to have a chat with Maxim after the race, so we will ask him to see what that incident was and see where it is. But anyway, he's recovered from it, he's up to 3rd position, and all things considered, this would be a superb recovery and more chunky points for Maxim Ramstein.
Yeah, exactly. It just works out in his favour. Now, Maxim Ramstein, you may come up and say he's not had the best raw pace, or that X factor has been missing, but hey, he's accumulating points. That's what you need in a championship like this one. He still had 3 wins in his bag, and Ramstein is your championship leader heading into this one. So as it stands, all good, all safe for Ramstein. He may not be the bright shining light that someone like Kevin Nielsen has been so far, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs to be ultra consistent, which, if you're Maxim Ramstein, is just part of your personality.
Well, the thing with Maxim Ramstein is he does not have bad meetings.
That's true.
He just doesn't have them. He's so consistent, and I know that might sound like a cliche, but he just, you think a bad night for him is maybe 4th. I mean, that's almost seen as a disaster. He's very, very often he's on the podium, and that's a nightmare to race against, because you can't make a mistake, and if you do, well, that's it, game over. So I think that's where Maxim Ramstein's real winning attitude comes from, and his ability comes from, is being able to keep clocking out those podium finishes. And well, this is not the last lap, this will be the penultimate lap, so again we're going to go almost one lap extra here, so we'll be into the last sort of 10 seconds of the race when we come over the checkout, over the white flag, so we'll have one more. Now, Brian Lockwood going through pit lane. Now, I worry, is this serving a drive-through penalty for something?
Yeah, he had a bit of an incident in the mid-pack. I think it was with Marco Jäger, so that could be something that we may have missed right here, because we saw Jäger tumbling down. Lockwood was also in a similar situation. Could be that. But now, Peter, it's a very interesting prospect. Dylan Burst and Quinton Violate, they have that aggressive moment, and Violate, interestingly, has not gone fully berserk. He's still driving sane, he's still driving calmly. That is a very mature thing of him to do, realizing that finishing is more important than proving a point. That is good, but what can he do in the last minute? I get a feeling that he's just going to go for the sin when he finds the right opportunity. And if you're Quinton Violate, you don't find the right opportunity, you make the right opportunity.
Yeah, well, let's see. I think there's definitely been off-camera pre-context between Violate and Dylan Burst, the car up ahead of us right now. It feels like the temperature is rising between these two drivers, and we'll come on to the final lap. I think you're right, Soumil. I think Violate will have a go, but where? Oh, there it is. A little bit of a, oh my goodness, oh dear. So a little bit of a tap there from Violate to the back of Burst, and that Maxim Ramstein. And I'm sorry, viewer, if I don't sound more animated. That is just gutting for Ramstein. What could he possibly do to avoid that? Very much like Rebecca Pauline's incident early on.
Yeah, and what makes it worse is the fact that we just said that Ramstein does not have bad meekins. This is it right here. So he's going to salvage something that he possibly can, but Lauritsen won't let that happen. Neither will Gunonzo Tasdalen. What that does is promote Violate up into P number 3, but at what cost? They could look at the replay. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Sometimes you really are lost for words.
Yeah, that is such a shame.
No,
oh, dearie me, and it's Maxim Ramstein. I tell you what, you do not see the 29 car of Maxim Ramstein making contact like that very often, but clearly he's royally fed up after that incident, and it's hard to blame him for that. And he's really scrapping for points now, is Ramstein. He's still in 8th, and even if he were to lose this position to Tasdalen, he's still got a decent chunk of points, but you've got to think he's got to be absolutely furious about that. And also for Dylan Burst as well. Dylan Burst got turned into a bit of a Porsche-shaped bowling ball as well there, from a little nudge from Violate. Now, what I wonder, will Violate be given a post-race penalty for that? Because to me, it warrants it. Could very well be. Violate's aggression not paying off in this sort of aspect. It only sets us a really potent World Championship driver for Course Sim Racing. One of Ramstein's teammate coming up in the chat and saying, strike like a bowling game. Yeah, that's very accurate. But you can see it in our tone. We are so distraught by that accident. You really don't want to see stuff like that happening often. No, absolutely. But this is what we do want to see. Our 4th different winner from 4 races here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Sam Teuter wins for Racecraft Esports. What a drive from the Dutchman. And the number 28 car, whoa, Justin Rem has a moment and spins on the penultimate corner. Rebecca Pauline in there as well, Matthias Birkin too. Oh dearie me. Oh, Justin Rem, he got into the feature race by the skin of his teeth, and more action at the penultimate corner for the 188 car. He'll pull the car round to the finish, but what a, dearie me, what an end to this race. Goodness me, I mean, not often do you have a kind of quiet reaction to a 3-car bowling ball match at the chicane, Soumil, but you're right, it was just a real pity for that podium battle to end that way.
Yeah, and we were looking forward to it right from the very start, Peter. We were looking for that great battle royal that we were going to get, and we did. The only real shame is the ending. And for all of our viewers watching, this does not usually happen. We do not usually see stuff like this happening eventually, but hey, what's happened has happened. What can you do about it? You put your head down and you move ahead. Let's hope that we get to see a more clean finish. But I'm very happy for Sam Coulthard. I'll tell you why after the results.
Yeah, he thoroughly deserved that. He really looked like he had an edge all day, did Sam Coulthard. Of course, getting on pole position and, well, actually getting on pole position for Heat 2, starting on the front row of the grid and edging out Kevin Nielsen. That is no mean feat. Quentin Violati classified in 3rd position at this moment in time. Nick Schulte-Wisserman in 4th with Dylan Burst rounding out your top 5. Alexander Lauritsen was 6th, followed by Pascal Costa and Maxim Ramstein. Well, if that's a disaster in 8th position, well, that still leaves the Dutchman in a very strong position indeed. Gonzo Tasdelen was 9th, with Kamil Grabowski rounding out your top 10. Alexei Nezov was 11th, followed by Matthias Berg, and Rebecca Pauline gets the finish that she deserves, 13th in the feature race, and a big chunk of points for that fiercely forward car. Vince Peters was 14th, followed by Florian Lebiger, Nick Harwood, Senk Insioglu, Justin Rem, Jaime Fierro, and Brian Lockwood finishing in 20th spot. Martin Donati was 21st, followed by Thomas Gildelein, Marco Jaeger, Hendrik Lichtenhagen, Gilheim Pipers, Oscar Wilkins, Kiro Kolobuksov, Marcel Jochheim, Bastian Mattler, and Kane Halley-Burton, one of the front runners, classified in 30th position. It's been a really difficult season for that Racecraft Esports number 12 car. Well, Soumil, I'm almost at a loss for words. What an exciting meeting that was, as what we've always come to expect here in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. But that was that took the biscuit.
That did. It's usual. Let's put it that way. It's the usual stuff that we get to see here at the PorscheSport Carrera Cup, and usual is amazing. But a word on Quentin Violati and that accident that we saw here. Unfortunately, yes, Violati has found himself getting into some rather scrappy incidents in the last couple of rounds, but it's his approach. He backs it all the way through. There's this Indian wicketkeeper in cricket called Rishabh Pant. He always goes for aggressive strokes, and there was a phase in the middle where it really seemed to be going very dirty for him. Did not work out, constantly not having very clean shots and not working out well for his team, but he's gotten over that. He's gotten to mature and he's gotten into good results. I hope that similar phase comes on, because it's a real shame to see races like this ending in this particular way, isn't it?
Yes, it is a pity. It is a pity. But to be honest, I always think you can't have racing that's as close and exciting as this without the occasional incident. It's an occupational hazard. That's the word I'm looking for. And I would much rather keep the hard racing and the exciting racing and have the occasional incident rather than a boring procession. And much rather, I wouldn't change it for the world, the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. And of course, that unpredictability has given us our 4th different winner in 4 races here in the championship. And Soumil, I will hand you over to our race winner today at the Nurburgring, Sam Coulthard.
Oh yes.
Let's see if we can get Sam in.
Yep. Just a moment, guys. This might take a second. Sam, mate, it's come full circle. Congrats, man. What a drive. What a drive.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Yeah, of course, they had a little fight in the middle of the race, which on that moment I could pull away, but overall praise was okay. Just struggled a bit to the end, but yeah, first win, that's always good in the season.
Sam, why it feels extra special is because we've seen you sort of develop in the PorscheSport Carrera Cup from the start. And I hope it's the first of many. What does it feel like finally? Must be a big relief to get that first win, isn't it?
Yeah, in the final especially, of course, I already got a few heat wins. And with a few, I mean 2. But yeah, I try to develop every week, and yeah, finally it's paying off.
Yeah, exactly, it is. And what do you have to say about all the drama that we had right there? Because, of course, you really had to get a good move on Kevin Nielsen. That must have been a crazy hard one to do because Kevin, a top driver right there.
Yeah, I was like already 2 to 3 laps or 2 laps faster, so I was just looking the spot where I was the fastest, and yeah, on that moment, yeah, it was just the best opportunity. It's really hard to overtake here. Don't get that many spots after beside chicane and T1, but you can drive really long aside each other, of course. So it can be fun, but yeah, in the chicane it's just all or nothing basically. But Kevin drives really clear there, and yeah, it was a clean move, I think.
Is the championship on your mind anywhere right now?
It wasn't especially, or it wasn't a target, but we can look what we can do from here. I mean, it's not my goal for the season or something, but if we can get on the podium this season, or maybe even win it, yeah, I wouldn't say no to that, of course.
Interesting. Finally, mate, anyone who'd like to thank for this particular win? Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, of course, my team again, Racecraft Esports. We did some good job on the setup this week, with barely any time for it. So yeah, still a good result. Sadly, my teammates didn't get the best race today, but yeah, I know we will all be back stronger for the next race at a circuit. I don't know what.
Well, many congratulations and pleasure speaking to you. Great stuff, mate. All the best for the next round.
Thanks, Soumil. Have a good night, boys, and thanks for the stream again.
So that was our race winner, Sam Coiter, and puts his stake in the ground for this championship battle, which is, I think, Soumil, it would be safe to say that it is going to roar on right to the very final round at the 7th round of the championship. 3 to go.
Yeah. I see. I'm laughing because I've got so much of excitement looking forward to those rounds. If we get to see battles that were similar to what we saw here, that sort of intensity, that sort of drama, that sort of fighting spirit, Peter, we're in for a treat. Now, I think this really is the most entertaining series that I commentate on, and there's some really fun ones that you and I both do, Peter. Seriously, this is going to be a fabulous, fabulous season ahead.
I couldn't agree more. By far my favourite. The proper hot action all the time, always things happening, and I think this is a format of racing that would actually transfer very well over to the real world as well. I believe it's just fantastic. Well, we hope you enjoyed the coverage tonight here on RaceSpot TV of the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup. Be sure to watch out for PorscheSport.com's coverage of tonight's action, both in the written form and also on the Porsche Sport podcast. Lots of cool episodes coming up on there. If you're a fan of Porsche and racing, you need to keep an eye on PorscheSport.com. Exclusive interviews, features, and much more about the world of Porsche. Thanks so much from myself, Peter MacKay, and from my broadcast partner, Soumil Arora. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time in the PorscheSport.com Carrera Cup.